Welcome to the England pod, all England all the time. And tonight we're in Slovakia. In spirit. Where the under-21s have just opened their Euros campaign with a 3-1 win over the Czechs. I'm Ali Maxwell, George Elix. With me, Lee Carsley's Unders Army, off and running in the defence of their title. George, good fun, this?
It was good fun, yeah. I mean, it started very enjoyably with England looking pretty sharp and having some real joy down the left-hand side in particular, thanks in part to the Czechia right-back's desire just to march out of defence fairly regularly, and Amari Hutchinson quite enjoying the space that was left in behind. It felt, I would say, for that first 5-10 minutes like it was probably a matter of time until we went ahead, but that wasn't the case, and we hit a bit of a flat spot. I'd say from kind of the 10th minute to the 30th minute was probably Czechia's best period of the game, before Harvey Elliott scored about 5 minutes to go of the first half, which was a decent strike, like McAtee working to keep the loose ball alive, send it back to Elliott, who on first view looked like a massive keeper error, but I'd be inclined to kind of agree with Joe Hart, who does know a fair bit about goalkeeping, albeit we do know the goalkeepers union normally stick up for their own, in saying that because it was such a well hit struck shot through bodies, and it went through the keeper's legs from kind of relatively close, maybe it wasn't quite as bad as it looked. I think the second goal's currently been given to JON ROWE, but I'm sure it will probably end up being an own goal.
No. Let's leave that, I think. As someone who backed England to win,
Me too.
as JON ROWE any time.
No way. Have you been paid out?
Well, I'll check while you tell me about that second goal.
Yeah, it was it Hutchinson down the left? I can't remember now.
It was Tino Livramento what made it.
It was Tino, of course it was. It was Tino Livramento down the left who kind of crossed the ball. JON ROWE running at the near post seemed to just about get a touch of the ball.
Yes, I've been paid. Come on.
Amazing. But then it diverted. It didn't look on target to me, and it rebounded and hit the keeper Hornacek, which is just one of the best names for a Czech person I've ever heard in my whole life, and went into the back of the net for 2-1. Fila then scored a goal, like relatively poor tracking of the man, not the most commanding from Beadle either, and Fila kind of stole in between England's two centre-backs, Kwanzaa and Cresswell, to get the goal back, before Cresswell, with a really good header from a set-piece, 50 minutes to go to make the game safe. He was kind of being wrestled, and he still just couldn't be wrestled, and still dominated and kind of planted the ball into the far corner. And I was delighted to see that VAR didn't overturn it for what would have been one of these very annoying ones where players are deemed to be interfering with play if the ball goes anywhere near them. So, job done. I wouldn't say we looked like a side who could feasibly go through the whole tournament without conceding a goal, as was the case 2 years ago. But there was definitely a lot of moments, like considering how new this team is and how little football they played together, and given that it's quite heavy on the national agenda right now, that it's quite hard to get talented players with not much football to gel together over a short period of time in an international break. We looked pretty good in parts.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see over the course of this tournament how separate we can keep chat, analysis, enjoyment of the England under-21s away from straying into Tuchel's England territory. Sometimes it will be natural to discuss that, but I don't think we need to do that time and time again. I will never get tired of watching Carsley ball. I enjoyed watching it in his first stint with the under-21s, which was only interrupted by a 6-game stint with the seniors, where we scored some goals that involved the type of attacking play that I don't think I've ever really seen England play before, and we saw that the senior players really enjoyed the way that Carsley wanted them to play, and really enjoyed the extent to which he empowered them to be confident on the ball and confident in themselves. And you could see that from the very first minute here as well. England's first 3 attacks in the game, in the first 5 or 6 minutes, were all incredibly sexy. And you were right to point out the Czech right-back, who's the only right-back or full-back I've ever seen trying to overlap when he's meant to be defending, trying to bomb on when the opposition are attacking him down his side, which was quite funny. But I think they were completely rattled by England's start. the confidence that we showed on the ball from the very back, from the very first time we had the ball in possession, was remarkable, and a real swagger about it, but not a complacency about it either. Punching passes around, trying to play forward where possible, loads of fluidity in the movement from fullbacks to the central midfielders to the wide players. It was really, really exciting, and we didn't score any of those attacks, and as you rightly pointed out, we then kind of lost our momentum big time after about 10 or 15 minutes, and by the time we went ahead through Elliott, I don't think we were playing that well. So it was quite classic England football team in a way that, like, after 10 minutes I was like, we're the best England team I've ever seen, nothing can go wrong here, and then almost immediately they just for some reason stopped being great. But the Elliott goal, he puts us ahead. As you say, it was really impressive technique to keep that ball low. The way it was laid back to him, I don't think is an easy one to get right. And both to catch it with such cleanliness that you get power and keep it low and on target. Really good, big moment for us that when we weren't playing so well. And that's Elliott, who's the oldest player in this squad. He's the most capped player in the squad for the under-21s, and he's coming up to 200 senior games at club level. He's almost played 150 games for Liverpool, Harvey Elliott. So I think it is someone that we're very, very fortunate to have playing for the under-21s, someone with that level of experience, albeit obviously hasn't quite cracked the Liverpool first team, but clearly such a talent. And him and McAtee, when they're bouncing 1-2s off each other, are very fun to watch. The second goal made by Livramento, getting to the byline, and JON ROWE, you are the reason that I breathe, JON ROWE.
For those who won't know the story, which is pretty much everyone, what happened when you asked, when you told JON ROWE that you often sang his name to the song Jai Ho?
Yes. I then immediately had to explain what Jai Ho was, what Slumdog Millionaire was, what the tune was.
I'd never heard it.
I had to send him a YouTube link to the song so that he could hear it in context, and after which he was like, you know what, I like that. I think that works quite well, and his name does scan very well. So, one for the NTT20 listeners did have a tweet or two about it tonight. JON ROWE, the reason that I breathe, the reason that I still believe, putting England 2-0 up. The 2-1 goal was coming, and frankly, you look at the stats on FOTMob George post-game, they had 7 shots on target. They had 3 of what FOTMob called big chances. A lot of them came from set-piece situations where we looked incredibly ropey, just like the under-17s did last month. But it was a set-piece goal where we got our third goal that kind of made it a bit safer and a bit more comfortable. And it's big Charlie Cresswell who scored it. When you look at the centre-backs in the squad, he is starting over Egan Riley. He's starting alongside Kwanzaa. And, he's been a bit out of sight, out of mind, Cresswell, because not only did he never quite break through at Leeds and had a decent loan at Millwall, but one where he didn't have a load of buzz around him after that. But he's gone to Toulouse, who seem to be one of these quite smart, savvy clubs that know what they're doing and are quite well run and sign players quite well and put them in good situations. I think he's had quite a strong season over there. So Cresswell forcing his way into the starting 11, the second most capped player in this team, so important from a kind of seniority point of view, and heading England to what felt in the end like a relatively comfortable 3-1 win. So the Germans won 3-0 against Slovakia, which means they are top of the group. Some 23-year-old called Nick Woltemade scored a hat-trick, so he can absolutely do one.
23? He's basically a senior pro.
He's now our arch-enemy, and we've got them in the third group game. We've got Slovenia on Sunday. I did notice that Germany had like 30% possession in this game, but were seemingly taking shots at will, so I'm slightly concerned, George, that they might be quite good on the really counter-attack, which would be quite a spicy one for us. In terms of England's tactics, I mean, it's very Carsley, isn't it? The way that you could explain it or format it, you could say 4-4-2 to a certain extent. I'm sort of trying to call it 4-2-4 in the half spaces, because it's like you've got your central midfielders, you've got your fullbacks, and then the 4 attacking players. 2 of them are broadly tasked with drifting out to the right-hand side, combining, and 2 broadly tasked with doing the same on the left-hand side. It was... who was it on the left? Rowe and
Hutchinson.
Rowe and Hutchinson on the left, McAtee and Elliott on the right. What do you make of it all?
Yeah, it was fun, and I think it's what I like about it is basically the responsibility falls to either Rowe or McAtee to be the kind of striker, I guess, when the ball's on the other side, which is it's novel, it's innovative. It looks like it kind of worked. Both players looking like they're in decent positions when they needed to be with balls coming into the box. Obviously, with a lack of proper striker, because even in the case of Jay Stansfield, like whilst he is obviously a striker, he's still someone who isn't just going to stand on the shoulder and look to get him behind and play in the 6-yard box. Like, he will drop in and he will run the channels too, and I think it'll probably suit him playing the system as well. So kind of needs must to an extent, and I assume that had Liam Delap not been forced by Chelsea, I say forced, I'm sure he's pretty happy to go to the Club World Cup, then I'm sure we probably would have played with the more recognised, obvious striker. But no, I thought it looked pretty good. It looked very, very fluid, as you'd imagine. It looked like it caused Czechia some issues in terms of getting to grips with it, especially in the first 10 minutes or so. And I'm excited to see more of it. And we've got a lot of players who fit into it. I mean, the one player I would say who played a much more rigid, obvious position when he came on was Nwaneri, who very much played the role that we will always expect to see him playing off the right-hand side, getting the ball into feet early. And he was, it wasn't very long for the 18-year-old, but he was probably kind of the standout player in the game in terms of the highlights reel. Like, I thought Elliott Anderson, midfielder, was probably the best player on the pitch in terms of what he did, and he was walking a tightrope, having been booked after 18 seconds of the game. But for Nwaneri to come on, he pulled off that ridiculous nutmeg from a standstill initially with a shot that was deflected just wide. He was, I'm pretty sure that if he plays a lot of minutes this tournament, we're going to see him score like a few goals where he just gets some like Pro Evo goals, get it on the right, cut inside and bend into the far corner just over and over again. And I was watching it thinking, like, it is quite weird for him that he's obviously an elite talent, he's 18 years old, but for club and country he's just got this guy who's just a few years older than him who's really good.
Well, and he's got Max Dowman, who's a couple of years younger than him, who's doing similar things as well. It's a crazy pipeline they have at Arsenal. Yeah, he's the youngest player in the squad, Nwaneri. He's actually just over a year younger than the second youngest, which is kind of amazingly is Archie Gray, who has always carried himself like a senior player, starting games for Leeds age 17, but even more so after what was really impressive debut season at Spurs. He played it right back here and was fantastic. I think the thing I like most about the system that Carsley employs is because they're not really trying to force the ball through central areas at all. So in terms of giving it away dangerously when playing out from the back, they avoid the issue quite well because everyone is drifting wide. Like they just want to build up through the wide areas, and I just think that's really hard to stop. Like, if the fullbacks are as good on the ball as Gray and Livramento, if the central midfielders are as mobile as they are in Elliott Anderson and Scott, in just rotating constantly out wide to combine, if the wingers are dropping in and they're all excellent at receiving the ball in tight spaces and keeping it under control, like, how do you defend that? If teams want to go man for man against England, and I wonder if Germany might try, particularly if we've both won the second game and we've both therefore might be qualified by the time we play each other, that's going to be an unbelievable basketball match, because the skill that we have, the speed that we have, the technical ability that we have is going to cause, it's going to be great for us, but also the confidence can stray into overconfidence at times as well, and obviously if you do give it away, you're in trouble. But the idea is, I guess, to get into the final third, and then, as you described, like, you want that fluidity, you want that quick passing and combination play, and runs from deep that are hard to stop, rather than just having a fixed number 9 in the box. I don't think that stuff was perfect, to be honest, in the final third, but that's the idea behind it anyway, getting those cutbacks, and I'm sure we'll see some goals like that over the next couple of games as well. I definitely agree with you on man of the match, Elliott Anderson for sure. He absolutely belted out the national anthem, which was notable given that he famously has one Scotland under-21 cap, and you spoke with Daniel Storey about making sure that he plays for England, not Scotland.
Well, he played through the youth ranks as well, I think. He got a call up for the senior Scotland squad in 2023 and was injured. So, yeah.
Spotted singing the national anthem too loudly in the shower.
And it was quite funny that when, as we'll talk about, but we were at St George's Park last week and we did the social video content, and part of that was asking the players, favourite England memory, favourite England player, first England goal you remember. And I was standing there watching Elliott Anderson answer, being like, this guy's played loads for Scotland. Like, is this okay?
It looked okay to me. It looked right, him playing in an England shirt, and goodness me, did he play well. What a fantastic all-rounder he is. And physically so good at age group level as well. Tino Livramento is another who has certainly outgrown age group football. I think we knew that. And he's clearly in Tuchel's plans anyway. Excelled for Newcastle. Love the way he plays on the so-called wrong side as left back. Not even in that kind of modern inverting and playing central midfield kind of way. Just playing left back, but because he's got such good agility and balance with the ball, it never seems to be a problem that he's playing on the wrong side. And I think that's a really good sign. And he's so good 1v1 defending as well. Nwaneri, fun off the bench, as you mentioned. I didn't think, I'm not that interested in being negative, but I didn't think JON ROWE had a great game, even if he has been credited with the second goal.
Fantastic finish.
I was hoping, having not seen him play too much for Marseille, and intrigued by him wearing the number 9, I was kind of hoping to see a bit more from him, albeit I guess his main strengths in this team are to score goals, and
I think
not
annoyingly
necessarily the one that's going to be doing the Omari Hutchinson, the James McAtee.
Which is what he'd want to be doing, I think. Well, I think he'd want to be playing where Hutchinson's playing, and kind of being able to have someone playing inside him.
Do you think, when I was thinking back, mate, to that great few months he had at Norwich, it was the goals that he was scoring that were notable. It wasn't necessarily the wide forward dribbling and stuff. So I think that might be his sort of superpower. I think he's takes goals well.
I think if we go back and watch 21 under 21 last year, I think I said that I reckon he'd end up through the middle rather than wide. So what am I talking about? Keep it through the middle, Lee.
Other bits are, never seen a player wearing like a chin strap, mask strap that Alex Scott was wearing. When you met him last week, did it seem like his jaw was broken in 5 places?
It was hanging off. No, I couldn't. He was the only thing about him physically that he's a bit bigger than I thought he was. Huh. I don't know if he's had a slight growth spurt in the last couple of years, but he was kind of, for his Bristol City days, looked to me to be fairly diminutive, and he isn't at all. Like, he's quite a big lad. A bit of insight again from the day at St George's Park was that him and Elliott Anderson, midfield duo, seemingly very, very close off the pitch, to the extent that Dave went over to them and said, "Lads, can we have an interview?" And Alex Scott said, "Yeah, absolutely." Elliott Anderson said, "No, thank you, I'm okay." And Alex Scott said, "Nope, you're coming with me. We're doing this," and grabbed him and basically pushed him over towards
Brilliant.
us. So
and then backed it up with a genuine 10 out of 10 performance on camera as well, where of all the players who took part in that stuff, he was just clearly the best performer. And the video that's gone out on our social channels today, and I can say this because I wasn't there, I wasn't involved whatsoever in the making of it, with Dave on the mic, who's really taken to that stuff like a duck to water, and Charlie, who's doing our socials, has put together the best edit possible. It's so fun. Make sure you go and watch it on the England Pod social channels. There's plenty more where that came from. Alex Scott, just great facial expressions. He's clearly just sort of taking the piss a bit, but in a way that's quite fun rather than annoying. He's become my favourite player in the squad, just based on that performance. My next question is going to be, what's Lee Carsley writing on his tablet every time we score a goal? Is he just writing positive affirmations? Well done to the team,
Wordle.
Well done to himself. Bit of Wordle, that's nice. Wouldn't put it past him. Not much phases him, does it? You spoke to him, had a nice 15-minute chat with him. I wonder how you found him as a man and as a football talker.
Yeah, really good. It's my second experience meeting him. The first was at the last camp, when I was part of a gaggle of media that he came and spoke to on the side of the pitch, and he shook every single one of our hands. And then this time round, he again was really lovely. We sat at the end of a table, interviewed him 15 minutes. He was very open and honest, very personable. And I think
he enjoyed being asked good football questions and not questions about national anthems and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to ask him about that, given that I think it was one of the stupidest things that's ever dominated the football conversation of all time. But I... did he sing tonight? But I don't know, there's a lot of... Can I swear? Can I swear on this podcast?
Please
There's a lot
do.
of bullshit, I think, when it comes to football and the way that often managers talk about football, and I think because the media plays a big part in that, and I'm sure we peddle a lot of it too, it's just like a lot of crap that people say to make themselves sound clever. And I think with him, there's like absolutely none of that, and he is happy to be really refreshingly honest, and whilst also thinking about things in a much more nuanced way than most people do. So whether that is, you ask him what's the key to winning a Euros, and he basically says, well, had an unbelievably lucky goal and our keeper made some massive saves. Like the majority of we see on stuff like the coach's voice and stuff where managers are happy to sit there and kind of blow their own trumpet, and rightly so often. Yeah. Like it is,
I played Max Aaron's inverted left back and James Garner at right back, and at the end of the day we scored a deflected free kick and James Trafford's made a massive double save from the penalty spot.
Obviously there are games where it's a tactical masterclass, but I think in Carsley's case, I think he also sees the bigger picture of his job. Like, he's not too proud to say, like, yeah, obviously we want to win and my job is to win, but my job is also to prepare these players for the future and to provide a pathway into the senior team. And that he should be judged as much on winning trophies as the way that these players develop into their senior career, and he seems to know that. And also just interesting what he said about, I spoke to him about whether or not his kind of approach to coaching and his attitude changed off the back of the senior spell, and he was just like, it made him realise that you never stopped developing as a player. And that's just such a great bit of insight, where it was such a stupid question of mine to be like, what was it like to work with players the way they don't need to develop anymore? And he was like, no, it made me realise that they do. Like, if you're working with Kyle Walker, you're working with Harry Kane, don't just be like, well, you're 30, so you can't do anything anymore. Like, try and help them, try and make them better.
Not as stupid as when you used the phrase special sauce to ask what it takes to win a tournament, and
that was me
turns out he had not heard that phrase before.
That was me being Ron Burgundy by both you and Dave, where I had written my notes and I'd shared the doc with Dave, and at no point given him the creative freedom just to start doctoring my notes. And so when I looked down at my notes, there was just a new question at the bottom that I hadn't seen before, which
it's
apparently
not doctoring. It's not a doctor. He's a producer. He's a very experienced audio executive producer, and that's what he was doing.
I self-produce, and so I just read it out verbatim.
Well, you weren't going to ask him what sort of special sauce it takes to win a tournament, and it turns out it's having a good goalkeeper and having a large slice of luck.
It made the final social clip, so it must have been a good question. But yeah, he looked at me like I was mad. And what's also annoying, I mean, I would say I'm not in the best shape I've been in right now, but the camera angle is an absolute horror show for me in that interview, especially because for some reason me and Lee didn't coordinate the height of our chairs at all. So my chair is really high, like I'm in top setting, and Lee's put his down to the bottom setting. And it felt fine at the time. Watching it back, I'm like 3 foot higher than him. And I reckon he's probably taller than me. So that was an interesting way to go about things.
Dave and I were obviously inspired by that with our post-Senegal friendly filming of the pod from outside the pub in Central. And definitely put the camera too low, just chins everywhere. And Dave, who is already about a foot taller than me, with the angle looked 3 foot taller than me. That was our homage to the Carsley Elliott interview, famous for its hard-hitting questions and its excellent responses. Well, we've enjoyed covering the England under-21s for the first time on the England pod. We've been looking forward to this tournament since we launched, and we hope that you've enjoyed our match recap from England 3, Czechia 1. In Slovakia, we're off to a winning start. Germany won 3-0, so they're top of the group. We're second, level on points, and we play Slovenia on Sunday. We play Germany next week, and we'll have a recap probably after the Germany game, I reckon. See how we get on in these group stages, and hopefully we can progress to the knockouts. Thanks very much for listening. Thank you for watching. If you've done so on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe to the England pod. Make sure you're subscribed to the pod feed as well. We've got an interview with the under-19 head coach Will Antwi going out on the feed on Friday ahead of the under-19s Euros. England's first game is on Saturday, so all England all the time. We're having a great time at the moment, really, really busy, and hope you're enjoying the pod too. Let us know what you think, any feedback that you have, any requests that you have, just drop them in the comments. Thanks for listening, and go well.